Welcome. I'm going to show you how to draft a sleeve in very few steps. So let's get to it. For this sleeve block, we're going to be using these measurements and calculations to draft it out. So simply take yours and keep them handy. First things first, we lay down our pattern paper flat on the surface. Then from the center of the pattern paper, I'm going inwards by half of my armhole, and I'm marking that point here. Then I'll mark the midpoint of this line from the beginning, or my armhole divided by 4, and I'm marking it here. Now from the end of this mark, I'm going down by half of my armhole divided by 4 rather, and I'm simply squaring this out to the other end. From this midpoint I marked earlier, I'm going down by 1.5 inch, and I'm simply marking inwards. So now using my armhole curve, I'm going to connect it to the top of the pattern paper, giving me a slight curve. Now flipping over my French curve, I'm going to connect this end of this points I marked to this midline I just marked earlier on. So this together gives me the armhole curve for the sleeve block. Now moving on, I'm going to take the full length of my sleeve block. Since this is a long sleeve, I'm taking it down from my shoulder to my wrist. So this gives me the length of my sleeve, and I'm simply marking across, then using a straight line to connect both points. So on this point, I'm going to mark my wrist divided by 2 plus ease allowance and plus sewing allowance. Now the ease the ease allowance is dependent on choice. If you want the sleeve to be tight, you put on maybe 0.5 inches of ease. If you want it to be free, you increase your ease depending on your choice. So after marking this, I'm simply going to connect it to that point at the curve at the upper part of the sleeve. The next thing to do is to look for the midpoint of this line if you do not have your elbow length. So if you have your elbow length, you simply mark your elbow length. That's from the shoulder, the beginning of the sleeve, to the length of your elbow, which is what I did. But if you do not have that measurement, you can simply look for the midpoint of that line. So marking it, I'm going to mark my elbow circumference divided by 2, elbow circumference plus ease divided by 2. So this is the point here. So this simply takes off the bulge that normally comes out while making a sleeve. So now using a kind of freehand curved line, you can use your curve ruler. This is all dependent on you. So now I'm simply going to create a curve and blend it into the end of this line. This is going to be our side seam for the sleeve. So that's about all, guys. The next thing to do is to add our sewing allowance, hemming allowance to the lower part of the sleeve. I'm going to add about half an inch to mine. I think this is the easiest a sleeve block can get. So if you've tried yours, let me know. Leave your comments in the section below, and